Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. Today we are joined by Kathy Reichs, who's an absolutely extraordinary person. Just looking at the back flap of the jacket. I'll go through some of this and then I'll ask you a question. The book that we're dealing with today is the 12th novel featuring Temperance Brennan. It's called 206 Bones, because that's how many bones you got out there.
That's the average.
And published by Scribner's. Mm-hmm. Now, in addition to doing that, you are a forensic anthropologist.
That's
you
correct.
Work in Canada.
I do.
And you do some teaching in North Carolina, because that's where you're from and you can't get away.
I'm on faculty at UNC Charlotte, but I'm actually on sabbatical.
Oh, well, that takes some of the pressure off.
Long sabbatical.
Yes. But in addition to that, Scribner describes you as the inspiration for the Fox TV series featuring Temperance Brennan, now in its what year?
We will start our 5th season on the 17th.
That's too many seasons for
it's
a
a lot.
TV
We've
show.
also been picked up for season 6.
So all of that leads me to this question. When do you find the time to write novels?
Well, anytime I'm not in the lab or testifying in court or traveling or on book tour, I write all day. I start early in the morning and I stay with it until 5 or 6 o'clock at night.
That's amazing.
It is. I don't allow myself the luxury of writer's block. You know, if I have time to write, I have to produce.
You have to do it.
I have
That's
to
right.
produce. I may use the delete key the next day, but...
You know, Salman Rushdie, in response to a question when he was giving a lecture down in, I think, Santa Cruz, and I was working with him, a question, what do you do about writer's block? And Salman says, I don't have writer's block. And the person, what? And he said, you don't understand. He said, I began writing as an advertising copywriter. And when they come in at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, you'll have copy done by 11 o'clock, you'll have it done by 11 o'clock.
Right.
You don't have any writer's block. What does it mean, that interesting phrase, you're the inspiration for the Fox TV series? How much involvement do you have?
Well, I'm a producer, one of many producers, so I work with the writers. We have a staff of full-time writers. I help them mainly with the science. We try to keep that honest, and then I read each script, again, just to be sure that the science is correct.
Good for you.
Thanks.
Good for you. No, that pleases me. Now, this Temperance Brennan novel begins rather darkly.
Yes.
I would say.
Literally.
Yeah, very dark. It begins this way: cold, numb, confused. I open my eyes. Too dark, black as Arctic winter. Am I dead? Obeying some limbic command, I inhale deeply. Smells registered in my brain. Mold, musty earth, something organic, hinting at the passage of time. Was this hell? A tune? I listened. Silence, impenetrable. But no, there were sounds. Air moving through my nostrils, blood pounding in my ears. That's a hell of a place to put your heroine, you know that?
Yeah, she comes to, she has no idea, it's cold and it's dark, obviously. She has no idea where she is, how she got there, or more importantly, how she's going to get out.
And that whole being in the hole is
right.
part is just a part of the story of 206 Bones.
Right, and it's a kind of a metaphor for what happens later.
Yes,
she
it is.
finds herself in the dark and she has to work her way out of what's happening.
Yeah. Temperance is accused of some nasty stuff here, of botching an autopsy and perhaps covering up a murder.
Right.
This is not nice.
It's not, and she begins to question at some point her own professional capabilities. At first, she's adamant, I didn't do this, and then you're supposed
very
to...
proudly adamant, I would think.
Well, and she turns out in certain details she's correct,
She's right.
and the accuser is wrong. But as things go wrong with her casework, for example, she has a skeleton she exhumes and she thinks she's got it all, but turns out she doesn't have 206 bones. Did she lose them? Did she miss them? What's happening?
She lost count.
But that doesn't happen to Tempe.
No, it doesn't.
So she begins to have self-doubts.
Oh, the fact of the matter is someone in general is trying to sabotage her career while she's trying to get to the bottom of a series of senior citizens killing in and around Montreal.
Right.
So that's the other plot, which is very interesting. And, right away, as soon as this starts to unravel, I think the reader has an immediate question. Why old people?
Well, I don't want to do the same thing in every book. And I've had young girls as victims, and I've had, I just wanted to, and it's a serious problem, elder abuse and the murder of elderly. It's been in the news. So I just thought it would be of interest to readers.
206 Bones is full of fascinating science and cliffhanging excitement. And then there are the characters. And we'll visit some of them after this.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
This is Conversations on the Coast, 206 Bones. That's the title of the novel today by Kathy Reichs, and it's published by Scribner's. It continues the series of Temperance Brennan, thank goodness. Wonderful to have another book in that series. Publishers Weekly said in part, at the start of bestseller Reichs's outstanding 12th thriller to feature Dr. Temperance Brennan, Brennan finds herself bound and injured in an underground tomb. In flashbacks, Reichs fills in the how and the why of the forensic anthropologist's deadly predicament with her usual blend of cutting-edge forensic science and a stubborn, compelling heroine. Boy, is she stubborn. Reichs manages to juggle several storylines without losing an ounce of momentum. I just want to say again how powerful for me those flashback scenes were. And it was like I'm all involved with the plot and what's going on, who, did in these old ladies. And then you hit me with an italicized chapter.
Right, and that was hard to do.
Taking me back underground. You probably didn't want to stop, did you?
It was hard to do so that you didn't break the momentum of the story.
I shouldn't say the middle of the story, but as part of the story, Tempe goes to an old stomping grounds, Chicago, and she visits in the home of ex-mother-in-law, I'll say. Estranged. You can't have an estranged mother-in-law.
Well, I guess not. I guess she's technically still her mother-in-law.
And this is a place in the burbs where everyone comes to dinner to eat Vekamama's cooking.
Vesamam.
Vekamam.
Vesamam.
Okay.
It's Latvian. They're a big Latvian family.
Yes, all right. And one of the, who are the guests? People like, I probably won't say this right either, Kukuro Kunzi?
That's close enough, yeah.
Well, no, so give it the full blast here.
Kunza, it means Mrs., I guess.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And it's food and food. You could almost smell it.
Yeah, and I'm not really making that up. That's really easy to write because my husband is from a large extended Latvian family, so it's based on those characters. Change the names, of course, but
yes.
They have recognized themselves.
Change the names to protect the overeaters.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yes. Now, one of the things that happens while she's visiting with the family, she hears the story of Laszlo Todt.
Right.
And now this is the part that I wonder about. She then dives into the forensic situation there.
Right. The young
how
man,
did he die? When did he die? And all this kind of stuff. And is that what you forensic anthropologists do? Go visiting around and then pop in?
Well, no. She's doing this because it's a family favor. But he went missing. The body was never found. So she goes to the Cook County medical examiner to see if she can help Chakars Kunza, this old 80-year-old lady, find her boyfriend's missing grandson.
That's right. It's her boyfriend's missing
grandson. And he's Hungarian, right?
Yes, right. And, you don't want to lose guests for dinner.
Right.
In that
right.
kind of situation.
Right.
But my question is that this is Chicago. Mm-hmm. This is not Quebec.
Right.
And yet she's given full access to the apparatus.
Yeah, she's in Chicago because she's been asked to return the remains of a woman who went from Chicago to die in Quebec, and that's based on an actual case that I worked on somewhere back in the 90s. So she's asked to bring these remains back to Chicago, at which point she's accused of wrongdoing or just botching the analysis. So that's why she's there. But she knows people at the Cook County Medical Examiner's office. So
see, that's why I love your stuff so much, is that when I'm reading along and you go into a case, I'm thinking, she probably did this one.
It's true.
Sometime, somewhere, somehow.
This is based on a couple of cases that I did. The defect in the breastbone that they have this big debate over, that's also based on a case that I did.
Now, there's a fascinating bad guy here, or at least a bad guy with a fascinating name. And he has many names or aliases. He is Caffrey, Keith, O'Keefe, Carling, Adamski.
Right. We don't want to give away where he gets his aliases, though, do we?
Oh, I think we can do that. I mean, because that's not going to divulge plot.
Okay.
And we're here holding on to plot.
Right.
So do tell us. He gets his names.
Well, think about it. O'Keefe, Carling, what comes to mind?
Yes. Beer,
right. He's a beer drinker.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when things get complicated and time is running out, Tempe reaches out to experts in other fields, all the way out to a place like McGill.
Right, and that's typical of what I would do as well, and I'm lucky that I can just call on my colleagues and use my colleagues, whether it's DNA or microbiology or scanning electron microscopy, I believe in this case, or whatever.
I'm glad you said microscopy because I knew I wasn't going to be able to say it. 206 Bones ends with a bonus epilogue. We'll examine that epilogue when we return.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
This is Conversations on the Coast. The book today is a terrific book, 206 Bones. It gives you thrills both above and underground. Yeah.
That's true.
Lots of people dying and incidentally, for you incredibly active fans of this series, I want to assure you that Andrew Ryan is on board.
He's on board.
Yeah.
He's not behaving very well at times, but he's on board.
Oh, this Buttercup. And all kinds of flower names are exchanged between the two main characters. And there's a nice few words from book list. Reichs pulls off a Jeffrey Deaver-worthy unmasking. Few readers will see this plot twist coming, a very good installment in a popular series. What is a Jeffrey Deaver-worthy unmasking?
Gosh,
I don't
it's
know.
Flattering to be compared to Jeff Deaver, though.
But I don't know his stuff.
The Bone Collector.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yes. The book ends with an epilogue, the title of which is From the Forensic Files of Dr. Kathy Reichs, subtitle, I would say, Camelot or Scamelot. And it says, in part, the forensic science community includes a wide array of practitioners, anthropologists, biologists, chemists, entomologists, odontologists, pathologists. You make me read a lot of stuff. On television, these scientists are portrayed as knights in shining lab coats. No question. Science is powerful, but does it always smite with the unerring stroke of Excalibur? Is every expert a gallant champion for justice and right? Recent findings suggest things aren't perfect in Camelot. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about the recent report. There was a multi-year study done by the National Academy of Sciences at the request of Congress. Mm-hmm. And that report came out last February. And the conclusion was that there are some problems. One of the problems is that because forensic science is so hot all of a sudden, a lot of people are just hanging out their shingles. People who have maybe a degree in chemistry or a degree in psychology. Suddenly they're a forensic chemist or a forensic whatever. How do you sort out, how does the court sort out the real experts? How does a judge or prosecuting or a defense attorney or law enforcement know who's legitimately qualified. And the recommendation by the National Academy of Science is to have mandatory board certification.
Mm-hmm.
Most fields now have certifying boards, and you have to attain a certain educational level and then sit for candidacy and then take a real rigorous exam.
And the bottom line problem here, at least in my opinion, you phrase this way. Bottom line, in America, justice isn't equally available to all. Why? Understaffing and underfunding and lack of proper credentials.
Right. And the previous gets to some of the problems that have been found in crime labs, which now also have an accreditation process. And then the second problem that I really is one closer to my heart is this credentialing issue.
Yeah.
Because board certification not only determines that you're qualified, but you also are required on an annual basis to maintain your education, to keep getting continuing education. And it also maintains ethical standards as well.
Mm-hmm. But we have those kinds of things in the state of California for lawyers.
Exactly.
I know, because my daughter's a lawyer,
Right.
and she has to do something
Right.
once or twice a year. And I think also for doctors.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And that's the difference is there are board certification processes for forensic scientists, but they're not mandatory as they are for doctors and attorneys. And I think this is coming, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Now, you end the book almost with a kind of pledge. You say, I have selected forensic science as my life work. Like the vast majority of my colleagues, I have sworn to a code of chivalry, the pledge, to protect the innocent from wrongful conviction, to help convict the guilty. Tempe and the NAS are right on the mark. Board certification must become mandatory in the hiring of scientists and in their qualifications as experts in court. And you have a character running around in this book
Right.
who, if she ever heard about a certification board, she'd run the other way as fast as she could.
It really gets to another issue is just because you're certified in one area, such as
Ah,
pathology,
right.
you don't cross over and start doing dentistry or anthropology. You
Yeah.
don't want a dentist doing analysis of bones, and you don't want an anthropologist doing soft tissue autopsies. If you're certified in your area, that's your area of expertise.
And the people at the top, and that's another problem that you get into in the book, that the people at the top have to administer the processes that way.
Right.
They can't allow somebody to come off the street
Exactly.
and do part of the
Right, and you
part of
don't
the
just
job.
hire a full scale expert who can do all of the different areas. It's a specialized. If you wanted cardiac surgery, you wouldn't go to an oral surgeon.
Or
You'd
a
go to the
dentist.
specialist or a dentist.
Hey, we must remember, 206 Bones is a great reading experience. It's a novel. It'll teach you a heck of a lot, give you a lot of thrills. It's by Kathy Reichs. It's published by Scribner's. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.